Rumi is on the bestseller lists in America, and even Hollywood stars and famous musicians follow his work. However, there's something they don't know. He was much more than just a poet. Today, we will enter his mystical, metaphysical world, feel him deeply, and try to experience his pure love, a love that is still powerful centuries later. You will feel the love of Rumi and Shams in your heart, but to do so, you must learn their secrets. What were the secrets that moved Rumi to his core, making him more than just a wise man? What did Shams change in Rumi that transformed him into a universally beloved figure? Even today, when you learn this secret, your emotions will fill your heart. However, Rumi's admiration for Shams would not please some people, leading to a plot for murder. Was there truly a murder behind Shams's sudden disappearance? Or is there a deeper secret hidden? Are you ready to discover the hidden secrets in this legendary story? I have crossed the vast wilderness of time to find you. I prayed, and I asked God to guide me, and he granted it to me. There is nothing else. You are my brother in spirit, my destiny. These were the words that Shams would whisper to Rumi. But let's go back to just before this magical encounter. The year was 12. Shams of Tabriz had been searching endlessly, but still hadn't found what he was looking for. Yet he continued his search. Finally, in a dream, he was told to go to Anatolia. With a sense that he would find what he sought, he arrived in Konya. Shams of Tabriz was a religious scholar who didn't care for show or status. He traveled constantly and worshipped in secret, believing that love was the path to God. He was in search of a meaning that would make life worth living. Other scholars and people had not been able to satisfy him. He was now over 50, with his hair and beard turning white. But he was very close, and that meaning was now just 5 steps away. When Rumi appeared in the crowd on horseback with his students around him, Shams, with an agility unexpected for his age, immediately sprang from his spot and ran toward Rumi, grabbing the reins of his horse. Even though Rumi's students tried to stop Shams, it didn't work. He knew exactly what he was doing. With a strange power, he looked into Rumi's eyes and asked a bold and somewhat tricky question. Rumi didn't answer right away. He thought for 5 minutes. The crowd was also astonished by the question and eagerly awaited the response. While you take a few moments to immerse yourself in the unfolding events, let's take a brief look at Rumi's life, particularly focusing on who he was before Shams entered his world. Jalaluddin Rumi was born in 1207 in the city of Balkh, Afghanistan. He was a scholar, philosopher, poet, and Sufi who has influenced the entire world. Rumi touched the lives of believers and non-believers alike during his 66 years and beyond, embracing all people regardless of who they were. His father, Bahauddin, one of the greatest scholars of the time, was the most influential figure and teacher in Rumi's life. During those years, Afghanistan was experiencing Mongol invasions. Under these circumstances, they decided to migrate in. Upon hearing this, the Seljuk Sultan Alauddin Kaikubad invited the family to Konya. A madrasa was built for Rumi's father in Konya, where he trained dozens of students. Years passed, and Rumi began teaching in his father's place at the madrasa in Konya. He married twice. His first wife, Gauhar Khatun, bore him 2 sons. Now, we return to that mysterious and intriguing encounter. While Rumi was walking with his students in Konya, he encountered this interesting person, dressed entirely in black, someone he had never seen before. No one, including Rumi himself, knew that his life would change completely that day. Shams of Tabriz was in Konya, and he stood before Rumi and asked his first question. Here is that question from Shams's lips. O Rumi, who is greater, our Prophet Muhammad or the Sufi master Bayazid Bastami? If you say Muhammad, then why, when he was passing away, did he say, My Lord, I could not worship you as you deserve, But Bayazid Bastami said, "Am I not free of all shortcomings? Am I not great now?" Rumi fell silent in the face of this question and began to think. Everyone around was all ears, waiting for the answer. In the usually noisy bazaar there was now complete silence. It took Rumi about 5 minutes to respond. Those 5 minutes felt like 5 hours to everyone. Rumi replied with dignity and calmness, "Is there any doubt about that? Of course, Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the greatest prophet, while Bayazid is one of his followers. Our prophet is like an ocean. All the rivers flow into the ocean, but the ocean neither overflows nor diminishes. Bayazid Bastami, on the other hand, is like a lake. If too much water flows into the lake, it overflows. Bayazid Bastami overflowed as much as he could and lost himself. After that, it is beyond his control." This answer had caused the river to overflow. At that moment, Shams realized that Rumi was indeed the one he had been searching for, and he was deeply satisfied with the answer. Excitedly and with love, he exclaimed, "Allah!" In that moment, Rumi also lost himself to the sound. He could no longer stay on his horse and collapsed to the ground like a lifeless body. Shams fell to his knees at Rumi's feet and whispered to the unconscious Rumi, "I have crossed the vast wilderness of time just to find you. I prayed and I asked God to guide me, and he granted it to me. There is nothing else. You are my brother in spirit, my destiny." Their whispered conversation echoed through the entire marketplace. To the onlookers and students, there seemed to be nothing visible to understand, because these two spiritual masters had begun speaking on another plane. Shams then said, "Not here, let's go to your home." They went together to Rumi's house. Rumi had a room full of books, and Shams instructed him to throw them into the pool. Rumi gathered the books in his arms and began to throw them into the water. Finally, only one book remained. Rumi could not throw this book into the water. Rumi said, "I can't. This last book is a keepsake from my father and is very important to me. It contains many topics I have not yet memorized." Shams took the book from Rumi's hand and threw it into the pool. After waiting for a while, he took a long stick and stirred the water, then said, "Let me know when that book surfaces." After some time, as Shams continued to stir, the book finally floated to the top. When Rumi identified it, saying, "This is the book," Shams said, "In the name of God, Bismillah," took the book in his hand and handed it to Rumi. Rumi opened the book and was astonished. Despite being in the water for what felt like ages, the book was completely dry, and even dust fell from its pages. In shock and wonder, Rumi asked Shams, "This book should have been wet, even falling apart, yet it's completely dry as if it was never in the water. How is this possible?" Shams responded, "This is what I'm trying to teach you. You are too attached to these books." Upon hearing this, Rumi instinctively threw the book back into the water. From that moment on, they would search for what they sought within themselves and within each other. The two of them then retreated to a cell where they secluded themselves for 40 days, allowing no one to enter. The meeting of these two men created a tremendous impact. Their wisdom went beyond borders and spread across the world. Rumi was already a recognized, known and beloved religious scholar before Shams, but it was Shams who transformed him into the Rumi we know today. Perhaps Shams achieved this not by coming into Rumi's life, but by disappearing from it. His absence ignited a love greater than his presence ever could. Perhaps even those who took Shams's life unknowingly contributed greatly to this profound transformation. However, the situation went beyond the harmony of two people who understood each other deeply and well. It was expected that Shams, being the scholar and teacher, the one who truly knew religion, would follow and be committed to Rumi. But the opposite happened. Rumi changed. The sudden change in Rumi surprised not only his family, but also his disciples. This situation began to disturb a portion of the public, And as the anger toward Shams grew within the community, Shams suddenly left Konya. However, his departure deeply affected Rumi, who almost stopped eating and drinking. He kept writing letters and poems to him. Unable to bear his father's condition, Rumi's son went to Damascus to convince Shams to return. Shams returned to Konya and was married to Rumi's stepdaughter, Kimya Hatun. It was hoped that this would calm the situation. While Rumi continued with his divine love and spiritual practices, the community's anger toward Shams persisted. Then, in 2027, Shams disappeared once again. However, no one ever found him. Was there a dark assassination attempt behind this mysterious disappearance, or was it a metaphysical vanishing? The truth behind his disappearance has been a subject of curiosity and speculation for centuries. According to the first theory, it was claimed that Shams was murdered by some of Rumi's jealous disciples, but nobody was ever found. This would not have been surprising, as over time, people grew envious and came to dislike Shams. They tolerated him only because Rumi wanted him so dearly. It's possible that some dark people from among them acted secretly to get rid of him. So, what was the other theory? If it wasn't murder, then why did Shams suddenly disappear? There is a strong possibility that Shams voluntarily disappeared to test Rumi's commitment, or to advance Rumi's spiritual journey. Shams might have realized that his presence had fulfilled its purpose of transforming Rumi, leading him to leave Konya of his own accord. Shams' departure could have been a final lesson on separation and divine love, but only someone who has suffered and burned with pain could transform from immaturity to mastery. Let us reflect on Rumi's profound words on the matter. I was raw. I became cooked. I was burned. Shams's mysterious disappearance was not just the disappearance of a man, but perhaps the transition of a soul to another dimension. This secret continues to live on in Rumi's poetry and teachings. The veil of mystery that Shams left behind is what led Rumi to transform into a universal sage. Shams had taught Rumi that knowledge alone was incomplete. The secret behind him, throwing Rumi's books into the water without causing any damage, was this: he wanted Rumi to focus not on the material, but on the spiritual. He passed on to Rumi his metaphysical abilities and divine love, taking him on a journey through the realms. Thus, Rumi was not locked in this world with Shams. He explored the realms of meaning, experiencing God much more deeply, not just learning but feeling it profoundly. This was something no one else could give Rumi, and that is why he held Shams in such high respect and lived with a deep sense of gratitude. The fact that he couldn't even find Shams's body caused him immense sorrow, and he burned with longing. The truth is, this was the fate of the path. Only by losing could one truly gain. Indeed, this longing and divine love transformed Rumi from a great scholar into a universal lover of love. It is no coincidence that Rumi's books remain on the bestseller lists in the West today. Rumi, who lived hundreds of years ago, has even fascinated Hollywood stars today. However, even today, this divine love and friendship between Rumi and Shams is often misunderstood. Materialistic people who reduce everything to sexuality and appearances may misinterpret the relationship between two people who found God and his love through conversation, understanding, and mysterious divine journeys. Just as the fanatics who wanted to kill Shams did, they were friends. And of course, people of the same gender can fall into a great love and become close friends of God. Now let us return to the heartbroken and deeply sorrowful lover, Sufi Rumi. Rumi was so convinced that his friend was not dead that he went to Damascus 4 times in 2 years to find him. He had opened a door with Shams's love. Until his death in 2073, Rumi continued to spin in the whirling dervish dance, like moths circling a flame, and kept writing poetry. When pity, even if someone lying claimed to bring news of Shams, Rumi would reward them with great gifts. One day, someone close to Rumi warned him, saying, "This person lied to you, yet you gave him your coat. Didn't you realize he was lying?" Rumi replied, "I knew it was a lie, that's why I gave him my coat. If it were true, I would have given my life." Love can only be expressed so much with words. Let us try to feel it too. Through his friend Rumi had found God, discovered and reached divine secrets. Was his friend killed by those closest to him, or had he just left? Rumi poured his sorrow and pain into his love poems. Now the whole world reads those poems endlessly. The word Masnavi, the title of Rumi's famous work, means to connect one thing to another. When Shams blended himself with Rumi, it became love. But even those closest to him could not fully grasp this love. Today, the Masnavi is translated into dozens of languages, but it's still uncertain if anyone truly understands that love. Finally, let us seek the secret behind why Rumi is so deeply loved. According to a friend of God, Rumi loved God and all kinds of people so much that he forgot himself. He said, "Come, come, whoever you are, be you unbeliever, fire worshipper, or idol worshipper, still come. Our door is not the door of despair. Even if you have broken your vows 100 times, still come." And he continued to love everyone. In return for his love, God gave him this great gift, making his name known and making people love him worldwide. This is indeed a miracle, because in the Islamic world, there were many wise and virtuous scholars, yet they were not as widely recognized in the West. What sets Rumi apart is this divine gift bestowed upon him. This miracle continues even after his death. He did not just love himself, and Almighty God gave his miracle into our hearts. I will respond to all your questions and comments if you write them below this video. If you want this story to reach more people, don't forget to share and like. As the divine love between Rumi and Shams continues to resonate around the world, we bid you farewell. See you in the next video.